Welcome to Eureka Street Crypto. This is my anti-professional crypto channel. I'm just a barely sane dude who fell down the cryptocurrency rabbit hole. This channel is my fumbling attempt to communicate myself outside my own head about my journey in the crypto space. It is basically my brain dump. None of this is actual financial advice. And welcome to Eureka Street Crypto, broadcasting live at 4:17 p.m. on December 8th, 2021. This is episode number 349 and counting. I do this every day. Sometimes I do a double header. As you saw in the intro, this is not financial advice. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not shilling anything. This is just my brain dump and me trying to figure out what the hell's going on in this space, because nobody seems to know exactly what's going on, but everybody has cool backgrounds that they're bringing with them, right? And today I have with me Philip Silva, and Philip Silva is with Bright ID, and it's so many things going on right now in the decentralized ID space with DeFi, with reputation systems. I mean, it's insane. There's always something new. So I figured I would bring somebody on who kind of knew what they were talking about in this area and explain to me what is going on. And this show is for just the average schmo like me. So I don't have a deep technical knowledge, and I'm working on it. But yeah. So welcome to the show, Philip. Thanks for coming on.
Great to meet you, John.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into crypto, and then how that led to Decentralized ID and Bright ID.
Yeah, so I started dabbling in crypto in a tiny bit in 2013. Wish I'd dabbled harder, but got completely down the rabbit hole in 2017. And during the 2017 bull run, I started spending more and more my time researching, looking, getting excited, watching my balance go up. This was all fun and great. And my wife said, "Hey, what good does this actually do for the world? So young white men get richer instead of old white men. That's not good enough. I don't want to hear about it until you tell me how it changes things." And I thought about that, and for a long time I've been worried about sort of the coming automation and how that was going to mess things up in the world. And I've been a fan of universal basic income, and was like, wow, if we could have crypto economic systems that distributed issuance to literally everybody, that would be awesome. We should do that. Cool. Mm-hmm. Started looking into that, and originally thought it was a new idea. Thought I'd made it up. Turns out no, people have been working on it for a long time. But none of the efforts I saw looked quite right to me. I wanted to just scream from the rooftop about this thing. But as I got into it, I found out that a missing piece was there was no sort of decentralized identity that could allow you to equitably give anything out.
Okay.
So started looking for the solution to that problem. I had no idea how hard it would be, how long that road would be, but have now been since 2018 been working with the Bright ID team to solve that problem. How do you let people prove that they uniquely exist as humans in a decentralized way? And Bright ID specifically tackles it in the smallest possible way. Give the example. So you want to go to the bar and you want to have a drink. Okay. What you need to do is prove that you're over 21. But what you actually do is you hand them your license, and they see your name and your address and your date of birth and your height and your eye color. None of which they needed. They didn't even need your birthday. All they needed was to know that you were above 21. And they needed that validation, that attestation from someone they trusted, the DMV that issued your license. You can imagine a world where instead you could just show a green check mark on your phone in in a way that proved to them that you met their requirement.
Okay.
And Bright ID wants to be that attestation, but simply that you're a unique human in whatever context you're showing up. So it could be that, hey, you've had 349 unique people on your podcast. That could be it. Or you a new coffee shop opens up and they say, hey, I want new customers to come try my coffee shop. Anyone can come have a free cup of coffee. The condition is that you can only come once and get a free cup of coffee. It's not a coupon that you print out a whole bunch and like some people come and use 12 of them. No, it's each person, each individual person. But that coffee shop, they don't need to know anything about you. They shouldn't know your email address. They shouldn't they don't even need to know your name. They just need to know you haven't had coffee there before.
Okay.
And if you also used that system down the line to get a free piece of pizza at the shop next door, you shouldn't even be able to tie together that you were the same person that got the cup of coffee and the pizza. You just have a way, an attestation that you could show to any application, and this could also be for airdrops. So Uniswap did an incredible airdrop, right? And they said, hey, everyone that has any address that has used this gets 400 uni tokens. Okay. Well, some people used one address and got 400 uni tokens for that. Yeah. And they did 10 trades. And someone else used 10 addresses and they got 10 times as many airdropped tokens. With a system like
Bright.
There you go. And some of those people that used 3 did it for completely legitimate reasons, a good ops, all sorts of great reasons to do that. And we didn't have as many airdrop farmers back then as we have now. So now projects are working really hard to figure out how do we stop the people that are just coming using 1,000 addresses to try to game a system. With Bright ID, each user could come in, they could say, hey, I'm showing up. This is the only time I've come to your site. I'm going to prove with any one of my addresses that I used your system, and now I can get a claim. So maybe if you use a system like that, everybody could have gotten 2,000 because nobody got. Everybody could have gotten 800 tokens because nobody got 1,000. Nobody got 10,000 tokens. Like nobody got way more than their fair share. So everybody else could have gotten more.
Okay. So how did they prove that? I mean, that's I've gotten Bright ID certified, and I sat in on one of these, identification parties.
Yeah.
So kind of explain that a little bit, how that works. It seems honestly a little intimidating at first, and then you get in there and you see it's all right, and everything's fine. But
yeah. So right now, Bright ID is working through a bootstrapping problem, because really the way that this is supposed to work is it's a social network. So you're building a social web, and you can use algorithms to analyze a social graph and determine which are unique human beings and which ones aren't.
Okay.
For example, so somebody likes a tweet of yours, and you go click on their profile, and usually within 2 seconds, you can tell if that's a real person or not based on like who follows them, right? If nobody follows them, they're probably not real. And if 66 of the people that you follow them, that's a really good sign that they're a real account. So it basically works that way. But the problem is at the beginning, there's not enough people in the system, and we can't use an existing social graph like Facebook or Twitter, partly because they don't open that up anymore. But even if they did, even if you could take that, the connections that people made are too lousy within that web.
Okay.
If you use that as your basis for analysis, you get all kinds of weird things. So the Bright ID social web, the reason that you're connecting to someone is for this specific purpose. And you can analyze the shape of the graph to determine the likelihood of unique humans.
Okay, so that's the only qualification, just that they're human, and that's it. And
that they're human, and ideally, so right now, when people come to those connection parties, we're making a very low level of verification. Right now, we call it sort of level 0 verification. We're confident that there are no bot networks, but you could totally get more than one account. Get 2, you get 2, you get 3, you get 5, maybe you could pull off 10. But that's only that lowest level. We can run on the same data set, that same social graph that's building out, that now has about 50,000 people in the social graph.
Okay.
We can run more in-depth analysis. So the hardest algorithm that we run, only 2 people out of 50,000 meet the highest standard of confident that they're unique human. And then like the one down from that has 25 people, and the one down from that has 100 people, and the one down from that has 1,000 people, and the one down from that has 5,000 people. So you can make it as hard or easy as you want early on. If you make it too hard, then people don't want to join.
Okay.
And Bright ID can be thought of. It's best to think of it as a passport. When you get a passport, you're not excited because you got the passport. You're excited because what that passport allows you to do.
Yeah.
It lets you travel. With Bright ID, we don't expect people like, oh yeah, I really want Bright ID. It's the applications you want to use require that you have Bright ID to prove that you're not a Sybil, to prove that you're not a duplicate account.
Okay.
If the things that allows you to do are compelling, you'll be willing to do some work to obtain that credential.
So all these credentials are completely decentralized, and everybody gets to own their data. It's kind of like this whole idea of was it Magna Carta brought in property rights, and then now we're bringing in digital property rights in a way, and we're owning our own digital property because all of our information and our data is becoming digital. So now we are no longer serfs of the internet. We're actual property owners because we own our data. And I guess my point is centralization comes from who are these issuing authorities that determine what you should have on your ID wallet or your passport.
Yeah, and this is probably where we should shift away from Bright ID specifically and make this more general, right? Right now, your identity, the source of your identity, is the government. They say it's their documents. I'm about to go to get my real ID through the government, and I have to bring them all sorts of documentation that is from the government.
Yeah.
to prove who I am.
Yeah.
And it's their identity. It's not mine. In Bright ID, also, Bright ID captures no information about you. We don't want it.
Yeah.
It is simply the social connections. It's funny if people actually go and they download the app, you put a name and photo, but that's not saved by Bright ID. That's just for you to pass around peer to peer to your connections, so people can know who you are. If you want to use a picture of a cat, you're welcome to do that, as long as your friends will go, oh yeah, that's John and his cat. Like that's just how he likes to present himself.
Okay.
For example, on my like the avatar I use for Twitter and Discord and everything, it's 2 NFTs put together. That's how I present myself to the outside world. A whole lot of people know me as that little colorful square. With a squiggle on it. Chromie squiggles, shout out. So in that I'm choosing. That's what I'm choosing to show to the outside world as my digital identity.
Yeah. Like some things that people have a problem understanding is that our private keys are really nothing is stored in our wallets. It's just the keys to the blockchain. So that ID is really pretty much just the key to the information that's stored on the blockchain.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So there's a great project called Ceramic. You might know that's called 3box, and they let you have a self-sovereign identity, which I think of as like a digital identity locker. So it's this place where you can store credentials. So you could get credentials. They could be Web3 credentials. They could be Web2 credentials. It could be anything. It can be that, hey, you graduated college with this major. It could be that you are scuba diver certified. It could be that the post office has validated your address. So you can have your whole locker full of all these different attestations, and then when you can decide who has access to specifically which ones, and open up just the amount that you want for any application to see. That's what sort of self-sovereign identity can be. Sometimes people say, oh, well, like, is that competition for Bright ID? And the answer is no. Bright ID is one credential that you would put in that locker. And it's a credential that it's all that credential is that you're unique. It says nothing else about you, but there's all kinds of use cases where that's all you need.
Yeah.
Let's say, voting, right? Doesn't matter who you are. Just like imagine that there was worldwide digital voting. Wouldn't that be cool? If there was just like a way that people could anywhere in the world could vote. The only qualification doesn't matter what country you live in, because this is open to vote. This is open to the world. It's just that, like, have you voted yet or not? All that matters. And on a lesser scale, let's say you're doing Amazon reviews or Yelp reviews. Again, they don't need to know who you are, but you should only be able to participate like once as one actor. I should not be able to go write reviews and make it look like I was three people. I am one person.
Yeah, so that's a Sybil attack, right? And that's
a Sybil attack
trying to prevent. And Humpty jumped on. Yeah, we can welcome Humpty on. Oh, please. 1 second here. Hey, Humpty.
Hey, Humpty.
Hi, guys.
You are now live in a video podcast, buddy.
No, I see that and I hear that, and my apologies for being late.
That's quite right.
I had a meeting across town, which I'm just getting out of, and stepping into my car to hopefully hear you better.
Okay.
So this has made it to the podcast.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about Sybil attacks is just what came up. He was explaining Bright ID, and we're talking about ownership of data and all that, and and kind of getting into some of the meat and potatoes of this stuff for the audience, because I don't assume that my audience is just crypto professionals, and that I didn't know what a Sybil attack was until I started getting into this stuff. So sometimes it's good to go back to the basics and understand and learn and explain what this stuff is to see how it's relevant in our lives. Yeah. So while we have you on here, you want to give us a little blurb about how you got into crypto and how you started focusing on decentralized ID as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, to make a long story short, I got into crypto around 2016 by way of Bitcoin, really interested in putting my money to work, or really placing it in an asset that I thought would go up in value versus keeping it in my bank account. My wife and I were looking to buy a house around that same time. And we couldn't buy anything. We really couldn't find anything because the real estate market where I'm at was just ridiculous. So we decided to park our money in Bitcoin in the meantime. And about a year or so later, maybe a year later, we found the home we were looking for. So took some money out and bought a house, and then just kind of kept diving deeper into the rabbit hole, because I was curious why this space was making so much noise, why crypto was so interesting beyond just purely the speculative aspect to it. And so that's what led me to joining a group of developers that eventually created a multi-chain validator that's still in operation today, and connecting with some of the blockchains and communities that I still interact with today, Ontology being one of those. And so around earlier this year, around this time last year, I suppose, I was looking for new challenges, and I was reading about decentralized identity in particular because Ontology was developing technology in that space. We jumped on in a meeting and discussed, a potential role within their organization, and joined them. And since then, fallen deeper in the rabbit hole in the world of NFTs and DAOs, and really trying to see how decentralized identity can play a part in all of this. And as Philip has probably already mentioned, it really does have a big impact in this space.
Yeah, and we're just trying to figure out how it's relevant in everybody's everyday lives, and this whole idea of ownership of our own data, what that means, where the centralization points might be. And I talked about who is the person issuing the stuff to the ID, and makes who is the entity that's determining what needs to be on your digital passport as well. And then we talked about how the blockchain, really all our private keys are, and the decentralized ID is just a key, a portal to that information, and it
Mhm.
allows you to pick and choose and store that. And then we got onto the subject of multiple people using multiple wallets and addresses, and then the possibility of a Sybil attack. And so that's where we're at, is trying to define what a Sybil attack and how this type of technology might prevent that type of stuff. So
Yeah, I do want to recognize, I'm glad that Philip is on, because he has been a wonderful mentor, whether he knows it or not, to me in my personal journey of decentralized identity. I know early on, I tapped him quite a few times to join me on a few chats, because, for me, one, I wanted to share what Web3 leaders were thinking about beyond just the crypto speculation. But really, I wanted to learn from some of the best who were building in this space. And certainly Philip is involved with a few different projects that I am a fan of. And hearing him talk about this, he does a wonderful job at breaking down the complexity of this and making it super accessible. So for me, he's one of my heroes and someone I look up to. And so whether I've said it before or not, or just this is the first time we're saying it here on this podcast, thank you, one, for doing what you do, Philip, and for joining us here in this call, and helping me and everyone understand the importance of decentralized identity and the role that we'll continue to play in this space.
Well, it's awesome to hear, Humpty. I've really enjoyed our conversations together, and I've also learned a ton. So right back at you.
Thank you.
Hey, John, what I would say, so real quick, so Sybil attack, Sybil with a capital S. It comes from, was it a book or a movie about a woman with multiple personalities? I don't know why that term became the term of art, but it's sort of universally used across the nerd space for one person controlling multiple accounts. We also like to use the term sock puppets.
Sock puppets, okay.
Sock puppets is the other
like
is the
that.
other is the
like
other
better than
one.
Sybil attack.
It is way worse of a problem than anybody thinks it is that hasn't actually tried to confront it. If you offer something that is in any way valuable, that people could pretend to be fake accounts, this works particularly well on the internet, and extract value from you, they will. And the Sybil attackers are better at this game. Like whatever thing that you might, so you need email addresses, I got thousands. You need credit cards, you need cell phone numbers, like whatever thing it is, they've got it. So when you had to go on Binance, you had to show your passport with a note that said, they've stolen those from lower level exchanges that got hacked, and they've got thousands of pictures of people holding name it, they got it. This is what they do professionally.
Yeah.
Right. And when they find a new place to attack, they take their resources that they already have collected and they focus it at this new thing. And it's something that people wouldn't unless you've been attacked, you wouldn't think that it's as bad. And project after project does something. They're like, oh, our user growth is awesome. And then they go, oh, at some point they realize, no, it's not real.
Yeah.
Right. It's like bot networks attacking the protocol, but for gains in terms of financial gain.
Okay.
One of the examples that I like to use, probably because I'm most familiar with it, and maybe hopefully other people are too, is a project like Gitcoin, right, where they have these grants. So currently the grant round GR12 is ongoing, and so what they do is they have this method called quadratic funding. And so basically what that means is the more people that fund a particular project, the bigger piece of that pie of those grants that are rewarded to them. So if, for example, one person were to donate $100 to a project and another project got 10 people to donate $10, it's the same amount, it's $100. But there were more people that supported that project. So because of that, Gitcoin assumes that there is more demand and more support for that project. And so a bigger piece of that pie will be rewarded to them. The problem, though, right, is a project could release a network attack, a bot attack, where they are creating multiple identities to contribute to a project. And so it may appear as if they got 100 people, 1,000 people to support their project, but in reality, it's just one person with multiple accounts that have, kind of artificially generated that support. They have implemented a trust bonus, which is kind of, I guess, their beta implementation of what this could look like in the future, of protecting their network or their platform against these Sybil attacks, right?
Okay.
Where if you verify your identity using a platform or a protocol like Bright ID, then you get a bigger share. You get I believe, a 50% bonus on top of what you were originally donating. So really, you kind of get rewarded on both ends as being a contributor, and for those projects that you are wanting to support, they get a bigger share of that reward back to them. So technically speaking, almost every project that is on Gitcoin should be reaching out to their community and saying, let's get you signed up with any of these decentralized identity providers that are supported on Gitcoin, like Bright ID, Idina, Proof of Personhood, so that we can get a bigger share of that pie, because we know that the people that are supporting this project are real humans, right? Yeah. And so we need to verify that humanity, right? That personhood. So go and create your identity, or verify your identity, I should say, with these platforms. And so, there's some effort, but honestly, I think projects like Bright ID have made it super simple, where either you download an app and you join a verification party and that's it. You now have this identity that you can use on various different platforms, not just Gitcoin.
Yeah.
We've used the term rabbit hole a bunch, and I'm actually going to give a shout out to one of my favorite projects that uses Bright ID. So there's a project called Rabbit Hole that pays people to learn and actually use crypto, and it's amazing. Anybody should go check it out. It's rabbithole.gg.
That's how I got my ENS, by the way, was through Rabbit Hole.
So you're saying they had a campaign where one of the tasks was to go create an ENS. If you did that, you got paid at the time. So it would have cost you, I don't know, $15 worth of gas, and they paid you like $25 to do it. So you made a little bit of profit, but then you got thousands of dollars from the ENS airdrop if you'd done that. So I don't know how many millions of dollars worth of value went to Rabbit Hole users because of that campaign, but definitely many millions of dollars. So, hey, good for them. And it won't be the last time that happens.
Right.
I already had my ENS address by the time I discovered Rabbit Hole. I was like, man.
But the idea is, so Rabbit Hole uses Bright ID because, right, they want a real user to actually go use a protocol, because of course the protocols are happy to provide tokens to gain new users to come check it out. It's totally a worthwhile, good bet for them to get a real user to come actually do an on-chain action that's provable. Great, they're there. But if you don't have Sybil protection, then one dude in his computer is just going to create 1,000 accounts and go do that operation loads of times. The people that are good at writing scripts are incredibly good at it, and they'll just drain it. So they've been using Bright ID since the beginning, and they thought, hey, this is kind of useful. It's also kind of a pain in the butt. It makes it harder for our customers to get started. But they meant to use it anyway. And then one campaign, they forgot to turn on the Bright ID requirement. And within half an hour or something, all of the quests had been completed, and they were like, "Whoa, people really like this." And they were like, "Oh no, we just got Sybil attacked." Like I said, the Sybils are relentless. You give them an inch, and they take a mile. And it's such a pervasive problem across so many things that we need a solution. Like, it doesn't make sense for every project to try to solve this really hard problem themselves.
Yeah.
Right. That, Gitcoin and Rabbit Hole both share the identical problem of needing to know that their users are unique. Yes. So we should have sort of a common decentralized system that everybody can trust and use. And when anybody makes it better, it's better for everybody.
Okay. And what about other options out there, though? I mean, there's was it Sovereign? There's a Proof of Humanity. There's
So the two sort of most compelling other ones to talk about. So Proof of Humanity, great project. They also have the UBI token, and I go by UBI promoter as my handle on lots of things. great folks working on that. So they're building a registry of unique humans. So you go on their site, you record a short little video of yourself with an Ethereum address. You need to get someone that's already in the system to vouch for you, and then once you've and provide sort of a stake of ETH, a couple $100 worth of ETH for a little while. And once you get on there, again, you can use that proof of humanity attestation. You can go prove to any application that accepts it that, hey, I've got that. So Gitcoin accepts it. It also lets you sign up for this UBI token, which just constantly drips into your wallet. It's pretty cool. Then there's another project called Idina that is online pseudonymity parties. And so basically every time period, I don't know, 2 weeks, something like that, anybody in the world that wants to go on can go on, and they do an AI hard activity. And right now that's called flips. So you have to organize images into like an order of 4 that make sense. They kind of tell a story if you read them one way, and then if you mix them up, they don't tell a compelling story. And this is pretty easy and intuitive for people, but hard for computers. So right now they do that test, and basically, and everybody does it at the same exact time. And the idea is like you wouldn't be able to do it 3 times in that time period because the time period's too small.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different implementations, of decentralized identity. Proof of humanity, like you mentioned, I think their implementation is a little bit different from something like OntID, right? Which is used. I don't believe that they're using a DID protocol within proof of humanity. Yeah. So there's different implementations, and I think each of them presents different utility for their own communities.
Yeah.
And are the actual implementation into other protocols. So use cases are different as well, right? Okay. So we mentioned, I think, 3 of them that are like implemented like on Gitcoin, for example. Yeah. But I think like even on Rabbit Hole, I think it's only like Bright ID, right? If I'm not mistaken. But there are also different kind of, I guess, abilities for how you can use these decentralized identities. So I'll give you an example. So like, and I can't speak for all of them because I don't have a technical understanding of each one, but as an example, like for Ontology's OntID, right? They're using the DID. Basically, it's an open protocol that's been created by a group, right? So the Decentralized Identity Foundation, or in collaboration with projects like Microsoft. I believe Certo is a part of that. Just a bunch of different projects that are contributing to that project, and the protocol works in a way where it's multi-platform. Where you're able to use this across multiple blockchains, but technically even within platforms like Microsoft's own, user identities. But beyond that, you're able to like leverage what's called verifiable credentials. And so these credentials allow you to, I guess, for lack of a better word, attach or link different elements of your identity to your decentralized identity. So I could link in a private and secure way my passport information using some sort of hard KYC, or I could link my social identity using some soft KYC method. So my Twitter account is now linked to my decentralized identity. And why is this useful? So why would I want these credentials associated to my identity? Well, it could be that by doing that, I'm further proving that my identity is linked to a real human, right? And who would want that type of implementation or that type of robustness in your decentralized identity? Well, maybe a DeFi protocol. They're seeking to leverage these real humans to enable new ways of using their protocol, like under collateralizing loans as an example, right? You want to make sure that the people on the other end are proving beyond, or beyond a reasonable doubt that they are human, but beyond that also that they are responsible humans on the blockchain. So you could also leverage people's reputation on chain, whether that is using other DeFi protocols or even your reputation in a DAO, as a way to increase your reputation and the validity of your identity. So I think for me, I've actually created quite a few decentralized identities. I have my identity with Bright ID. I have my identity with Idina, with OntID. I still haven't done proof of humanity. for my own personal reasons, which I won't get into here. But I think that there are a variety of different ways of creating this decentralized identity. But the important thing is to understand the value of that identity and the use cases of this identity in Web3.
Okay, so there's NFTs that people are a lot of times you were talking about people that add you on Twitter or whatever, and you see all the mutual friends, and that kind of adds some legitimacy. So that's a social graph there, that whether it be kind of an objective social graph or just kind of a subjective social graph, or you see somebody have a Bored Ape and you're like, I know that some robot is not going to have some legit Bored Ape as their profile pic, so
probably.
NFTs and POAPs are transferable though, right? So what's to keep somebody from transferring information to somebody else and kind of screwing up the social graph and all that type of stuff? Yeah.
Well, transferring the social graph is definitely harder. I mean, people on Twitter, people do sell Twitter accounts. Like if you build up a non-Twitter account and it gets a big following, that is a thing that you can sell for significant money to someone else that would like to just like walk into those credible shoes.
Yeah.
But let's, I think that's kind of a side conversation. POAPs. I love POAPs. I think it's an amazing project. I get worried when people want to use that as identity because like you said, it's transferable.
Yeah.
So, it's like a ticket stub. If you have a ticket stub from a concert, that's cool if you went. If you give it to someone else and they didn't go to the concert, it's like, okay, well, I mean, they can have the ticket stub. It doesn't mean they went to the concert.
I mean, I could see LinkedIn, becoming Web3 and then having people attach their ID services or their Ethereum address or something with a whole library of POAPs or something that they could show that they've actually participated in certain DAOs or how long they've been a part of DAOs. But like
it's not going to be LinkedIn. The LinkedIn itself is not going to do that. But yes, the Web3 version of LinkedIn is totally going to do that. Brian Flynn, who heads up Rabbit Hole, talks about this constantly on Twitter in really smart ways. But he and others are convinced that like your resume of the future is sort of going to be like your on-chain actions.
Right.
There's a great project called Degen Score. So back after DeFi summer, this came up. So you go to degenscore, I don't know, .io or something like that, and you give it access to your MetaMask account, and it gives you a score based on like all the stuff that your address has done. And you get like the crazier the thing that you did, the more points you get, and for people that have really gone deep in this, they send their Degen score to like big companies, big web hedge funds, and they get jobs because they have a top 100 Degen score. And like straight up, there's people look at that and go, okay, you clearly know exactly what you're talking about. There's proof that you've done it.
Right. Wow. I think that's the distinction we need to make, right, with the Degen score, because that's actually encouraging and celebrating your activity just generally without necessarily looking at the kind of the value of that activity. Whether you are aping in and defaulting on loans, it doesn't matter with your Degen score. As long as you're actively participating, you're basically getting rewarded for being active in as many protocols, regardless of whether you were adding value or extracting value to that protocol, whether you were I guess you had a good reputation in that protocol, or whether, like I said, you were defaulting a lot. It doesn't matter. Your score, at least when it first came out, I don't know if it's iterated since, it really is just giving you a score based on that general activity, which I think to these people who are getting hired with that really proves to these potential employers that this person is deep in the weeds. They are so very active in this space, regardless of the results of those actions. They are probably one of these first. They're basically a first adopter score. It's like you're going out there, you're trying things just for the sake of trying them out. There are protocols that will want to see that you're actually adding value back into the ecosystem, right? So there's a distinction there. But yeah, I think the Degen score is a perfect example, because at that time when it first came out, it was for a decentralized exchange, if I'm not mistaken, because they wanted to open access specifically to these people who were coming into this ecosystem and really being the first ones that were trying something out. And in order to like filter out anybody who wasn't really deep in this ecosystem, that degen score needed to be pretty high, right?
Huh.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting project because it really is a score for the sake of having a score from your activity, regardless of what that activity was. But yeah, I think they're still active. At least recently I saw them tweeting, and I think that they're now considering iterating the project to go beyond that just score for the sake of having a score to something that maybe is more of a additive value that you're bringing into the ecosystem.
Yeah, right. Imagine when a community like Gitcoin comes out with a thing like that.
Right.
Where it's not degen, it's regen, and again, but they can crawl through your on-chain activity. Weird feedback. And score you to the good you've done in the world, provably. Yeah. So it's gonna be big. Also another really useful thing is that so imagine you don't in the future you don't want to share all of your activity, you just want to share the output. So for the degen score, it's like, right, you don't need to show the employer your address and all the activity. But like imagine you have that verifiable credential, that like provable attestation from degen that this is your, or from Gitcoin that this Gitcoin has blessed this person, and you can prove that you have their blessing. This could also be for KYC. So there's all these projects that require KYC, but actually doing the analysis is hard, expensive, time consuming. Imagine you do your KYC with one place, and they really do get all your documents, and they save it, and they save them, and their job is to not leak those out. Whatever, the government needs that. And then they just give your account a stamp that says, hey, we have done the KYC process. Here are our standards. If they got this stamp, it means we have done that. We have done this. If you trust us. And if the government ever really needs to go, because whatever the compliance rules, they have to, they know where to go to get the records. But now you don't actually have to leak your personal information to all the websites that just accept that attestation from the KYC provider.
Okay. Right. So it's just kind of like, he cool, and that's about it.
He's cool. and I could prove it if I really need to. If you bring in a court order, here's the entity that can prove it.
Right.
But me, the application, I don't know. Look at them. Look at the KYC provider. Not my problem. But I did.
Did you share your example of the 21-year-old trying to buy alcohol? Because I mean, that's one of the examples that I know used regularly and really simplifies, I guess, for lack of a better word, how this attestation works, right? And the type of information that you're currently relinquishing to the type of information that you need to relinquish in order to get that, that alcohol, right? Like really, which is just really a binary answer, yes or no.
We led with that. It's such a good, clear example. And we've all literally done it.
Yeah. I've used a fake ID before.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, but does this matter what blockchain it's on, or is it permissioned or unpermissioned, or and who puts this stuff on the blockchain, and who's the authority to be able to make this stuff accessible by things like Bright ID and stuff like that? And
so, I mean, I can give you the Bright ID specific answer to that. It's going to be different for every project. So Bright ID is blockchain agnostic. And it actually plays fine with Web 2 as well. So the decentralized system that it uses doesn't care. You just need to have any place that has a unique identifier can use Bright ID. So that can be an Ethereum address, or that could be an email address. Or there's anything with a unique identifier, and really
anybody
most systems
could set up a unique identifier.
Yeah, and most systems generate a unique identifier that you wouldn't recognize it. It's like it's a hashed thing, and if they have good security, here's a great example. Back when 15 years ago, when you forgot your password, you would ask the system to tell you your password. And nowadays it says reset your password. And the reason is they don't know your password. They used to know it.
Huh.
They don't know it anymore. What they do know, it's this hashing function where they take your password in, it goes to this crazy Rube Goldberg machine, and then a hash comes out at the other end. And anytime you put the password in, you get exactly the same hash on the way out. If you change one letter in your password, you'll get a completely different hash. So they know it. They know if it matches or not, but they don't actually know your password, which is much better for security reasons. But that's why they can't tell you what it is, because they literally don't know it.
I can tell you, I was a sysadmin for many years in my young career when I was just getting started, and I used to be able to like read everybody's passwords. And so if anybody needed a password, you just literally like click a button, and the hash becomes actual words. And I was like, really, was it password 123? Did you forget that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
So,
nuts.
but yeah, no, so it's been changing, obviously, how that works. But in terms of like, in answering the question from the perspective of like OntID, DID is cross platform. So DID it's a blockchain agnostic protocol. So it doesn't really matter which blockchain you use, which is the reason why currently, like if you use Onto and it creates your identity wallet, it creates wallets across multiple blockchains that are all accessible using the same DID.
Nice.
Okay, so even like a private university with their medical journal, and only scholars can write for it, and it's up on that blockchain, even that private blockchain could be accessible with the right type of ID signifier that you're talking about.
Yeah. The projects that are building are doing it to sort of be able to be used by anything.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, I have a little quote that I thought was kind of interesting, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on it. Identity is not what you say about yourself, but what others say about you. Decentralized ID allows users to say things about themselves.
That sounds like something Philip might have said.
The first part.
I mean,
well, Philip, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I mean, I would say from especially the first part of that, Bright ID works the way it's what other people say that matters, not what you say. You're right. Your identity in Bright ID comes from others, and also so we have social recovery in Bright ID. If you need to recover your account, at the beginning you set people that you know and trust to like sort of be the arbiters of your identity, and then to get your account back, you just go to them. And they validate that you're the right person, and you get your account back.
Okay.
In the long run, and Vitalik has written about this a bunch. He thinks that social recovery will be like the key of the key to key management in the future. Is that it's not going to be your seed phrase. It's going to be people, and then the right collection of those people can reestablish your access to your account.
Oh wow, that's truly like a hive mentality right there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of that first part too, I think in terms of like your identity as what others say you are, I think this is you can kind of draw parallels to identity and reputation from this in terms of your reputation being a result of the actions that you take on chain. So your identity is then going to be a composite of those actions, of that activity. Well, good or bad, that is what your identity is. And so that is that's the type of access that you're going to get, whether it's a degen score or a region score.
Yeah.
And John, the backside of that comment is about when you want to give someone some of that information, you should be able to give them only the pieces that you want.
Yeah.
And this is what we got in with the license thing. But right now, you are giving so much more information than you mean to so many like web applications that you're accessing. They know so much about you, and you don't realize all that they're getting. And there's a future world where we do decentralized self-sovereign identity right, that when you're surfing around, you only give what you want. and there'll be
Right.
plenty of times that you will want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, uh, it's creepy when you get the request for like personalized ads, but you know what? Personalized ads are kind of better than non-personalized ads, like within the right context. But maybe there's some things that like you're like, I don't want them to know that about me.
True.
I
mean,
What about when they ask you to choose the ad that you prefer? I feel like that's overstepping. Like, now you want me to take an action to tell you how to best profile me. It's like, how about you take your best shot, because I've done the best I could to mask my identity. Now you're asking me to reveal more about myself so that you can target me even further. I think that's actually pretty funny.
My wife laughs that there's a whole bunch of things that Facebook has like figured out about her. Although one thing they have wrong is that they think she has curly hair because she likes pictures of people with curly hair, like in the ads. So they're always showing her like stuff for like curly haired people, yet she doesn't have curly hair.
Well, there you go. She's done a good job at creating a pseudonymous hair profile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you say to the people though that just like, there's not much about me. I just go to work and come home and I have a family and kids and I don't care. They can have my data, you know?
Yep. And it's fine. So many of us are like, I don't have anything to hide. But if the world works that way for everyone, like the state and the companies are just going to keep taking more and more and more. If we don't draw a line in the sand, they will take it all.
Yeah.
They will know everything about you and about everyone. And if you don't, like the cypherpunks wrote that, like, if privacy doesn't exist, like everything falls apart. Even if you don't always need the privacy, like if you can't have privacy, the systems all break.
Okay. I know we're running pretty late here, but
I warned you.
There's so many questions I have to ask. I just want to lead to one more branch here, if that's okay. Okay. Decentralized ID, it brings you in connection with a lot of people based upon your social graph and all this stuff. But what about decentralized ID bringing you and developing a relationship with things, with IoT, your refrigerator, and come on, let's talk about that.
Well, I'll just say that the DID standard is for people and devices.
Yeah.
So it is built with that in mind in terms of creating unique identities for our devices as well. I think, IoT, that's still emergent, right? I mean, I think even some projects were built early to try to capture the value from that space, but I don't think that we've necessarily even tapped the surface of what that may look like.
Not even close.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there's tons of value in that. I mean, in my home, as much as I, in the beginning, did a really good job at trying to limit my digital footprint, I've done a terrible job most recently, right? Because I do have a smart home where everything from the light bulb to the coffee maker is IP based. Yeah. So I can, automate things around the house, or whether it's the lights turning on or just being lazy and not wanting to walk into the room of my daughter to turn off her nightlight once she's gone to sleep. But I think that that in itself is generating data that's valuable, and I would like to have ownership over that.
Okay.
And anything that's extracted from that, whether there's any type of monetization, I want to remain in control of that. So decentralized identity isn't just a human issue; it's also just an issue with anything that touches, the internet, if you will.
Okay. So basically, the more we get automated out of jobs and have to end up on UBI, in a way, our data will become our subsistence, and we'll have to sell that. And so when we say we have nothing to hide, they can have all our data, but then our data in the future will kind of be our food, how we put food on the table, right?
It might be.
Could be, yeah. Well, and I think in terms of those people, what I would say is, I think, Philip, you said it perfectly in terms of privacy. But also, I think we need to be mindful that, we're making decisions for the next generation. So if we have kids, we need to be mindful that the decisions we're making may affect them in the future as well. So just because privacy may not be important to us, certainly may be for our children as well. So protecting that privacy and kind of ensuring that this privacy is available to us, that is still our responsibility.
Okay, so you guys in the digital ID space have a huge weight on your shoulders, it seems, to do this right, you know?
Right.
And just like the state is against us on this. They want, their preference is to know everything knowable.
Right.
You know, and obviously some places more than others, but like in, you know, China is one of the worst offenders of this, that they want to do complete surveillance over their citizens. They have and are continuing to roll out a social credit system that determines so many things about what people can do. And they take in like crazy things into account because they know them. They're like, right, do you jaywalk, right? So that they have cameras on the streets, and then they use facial recognition to know who's crossing where they're not supposed to be crossing, and that dings your social credit score. There's things about like you lose points if you don't call your parents because they track your phone. Like if you don't make those phone calls, like you lose points, and this can affect the jobs you get, the transportation systems you're allowed to use. Like it's everything, and they view this as we're getting started.
Yeah,
they want it all.
Wow. So
And I think that just goes back to ownership, privacy. You want to ensure that you have systems in place that allow you to be able to be in control of your identity and your data, right? And then, I think to the point that Philip made a little while ago, allows you to have the agency to choose what information you want to share.
Yeah. Okay, so it goes back to at the very beginnings, and before we were digital serfs, now we can own our identity and our digital property, and and maintaining and keeping that is paramount. And so,
and we discussed again, but it's worth mentioning just that you can control which specific pieces with self-sovereign identity. You are in control of exactly which pieces you give to any one entity. So there's certain things I'm willing to tell Humpty. There's a different set of things I'm willing to tell you. There's a different set of things I'm willing to tell my doctor. And with true future self-sovereign identity, you'll be able to like precisely pick exactly who gets to see what, and then maybe even revoke that access.
Wow.
Later in the future. It's trickier, but I know that's a thing that that folks are also working on.
And I think going back to something you asked earlier, John, in terms of like there are so many decentralized identity providers, the issue of identity is a very complex topic. So we do want as many of these folks who are interested and able to work on solving some of these challenges to be doing so. So, whether there are 5, 10, or 20 different projects working in this space, the space is big and complex enough where we absolutely need to have a lot of the best minds working on this towards, really to facilitate that empowerment and privacy for ourselves and future generations.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I guess I'll kind of end on that. We're right at the hour mark. I was like, it's a 30-minute show. So, no, not when we're talking about things as important as this. And you guys are stewards of some amazing technology. And I appreciate you both coming on to the show. This is, to me, it's been a powerful show, and it's such a simple concept, but it's so complex at the same time. So, yeah. So any final thoughts or last words here?
Y'all should go and get Bright ID verified, and then go do some things like Rabbit Hole. So brightid.org will get you started. You can download the app, then go over to rabbithole.gg. Gitcoin round is going right now. If y'all haven't given a Gitcoin, you should totally do it. Help these amazing public goods that are being built across the ecosystem. Small donations small donations from you can have an outsized impact on projects that you believe in. So encourage you to do all that.
Yeah, really cool projects. Also, if you want to see how DID and VCs work, simply you can download the Onto wallet, onto.app, and you can see the types of verifications that you could make onto your identity, from social identity to KYC. It's really fun.
Right on. Okay. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Good
John.
job.
Cool. Thank you for your time
Yeah. Thank
and
you.
patience with me wandering the streets of LA.
That's what this show's all about, right? All right.